Tom Mitchell isn't your typical school janitor. Every night, he cleans the halls of Mountain View High while his 10-year-old son sleeps at their neighbor's house. It's not much of a life, but they get by. That is, until one winter evening when he finds 16-year-old Maya Thompson hiding behind the gym bleachers, abandoned by her family with nowhere else to go. Despite drowning in his own bills and barely keeping his head above water, Tom makes a decision that will change everything. He offers Maya a home. What he doesn't know is that this broken teenage girl is about to give him something far more valuable in return. After discovering an old notebook filled with Tom's forgotten dreams, Maya sets out on a secret mission that will not only transform their lives, but touch the heart of their entire struggling town. What could one abandoned girl possibly do to repay the kindness of a stranger? Before we jump back in, tell us where you're tuning in from. And if this story touches you, make sure you're subscribed, because tomorrow I've saved something extra special for you. The jingling of keys echoed through the empty hallway of Mountain View High School. Tom Mitchell paused at the drinking fountain, wiping it down with practiced motions, as familiar as his own heartbeat. Each key on his ring marked a different chapter of his life here. Brass for the classroom, silver for the offices, copper for the storage rooms. 15 years of service, each scratch and dent telling its own story. He checked his watch. 9:45 p.m. Mrs. Chen would be telling Jimmy his bedtime story right about now. The thought brought a tired smile to his weathered face. His son had been begging for the same story all week, the one about the knight who helped people even when his own castle was crumbling. Tom hadn't had the heart to tell him it wasn't a fairy tale, but rather a thinly veiled version of their own life that Mrs. Chen had crafted to help Jimmy understand why his father worked such late hours. The gymnasium was always his last stop. Tom liked ending his nights there, in the vast empty space where the quiet felt almost peaceful rather than lonely. He'd developed a routine over the years. Start with the bleachers, then the floors, and finish with the equipment room. Sometimes, if he was feeling particularly worn down, he'd shoot a few baskets. The hollow echo of the bouncing ball reminded him of better days, when Sarah was still alive and they'd come watch the school games together. Tonight, though, something was different. His instincts, honed by years of working alone in the dark, picked up on it immediately. A subtle shift in the air, the faintest rustle behind the bleachers. Tom's hand tightened around his keyring, the metal warm and reassuring against his palm. "Hello?" His voice carried across the empty gym. "Anyone there?" No response, but another. Slight movement caught his eye. Tom approached slowly, flashlight beam steady. "Look, if you're a student, you can't be here this late, but if you need help..." He let the words hang in the air. An offer, rather than a threat. That's when he saw her. Maya Thompson, sophomore, usually sat third row from the back in Ms. Peterson's English class. Tom remembered because he'd often cleaned that room during her class period, and she was one of the few students who ever acknowledged him with a smile. Now she was huddled in the corner, a thin blanket wrapped around her shoulders, dark circles under her eyes, suggesting she hadn't slept properly in days. "Maya?" The name came out softer than he intended, heavy with concern. "What are you doing?" "Here?" She pulled the blanket tighter like a shield. "I'm sorry, Mr. Mitchell, I'll leave." Her voice cracked on the last word, and Tom noticed the backpack beside her, stuffed full, as if containing everything she owned. Tom had seen that look before, in his own mirror 3 years ago after Sarah passed. The look of someone trying to hold themselves together while their world fell apart. He glanced at his watch again. 9:52 p.m. Jimmy would be asleep by now, dreaming of knights and castles and happy endings. "When's the last time you ate?" he asked, already knowing he couldn't just walk away. Sarah would never have forgiven him. Maya's silence was answer enough. Tom reached into his jacket pocket, pulling out the sandwich he'd been saving for his midnight break. "Here," he said, holding it out. "It's just peanut butter and jelly, but it's fresh. Made it this morning." She hesitated, pride warring with hunger. "I don't need..." "Everyone needs help sometimes," Tom interrupted gently, thinking of Mrs. Chen and all the nights she'd watched Jimmy without asking for anything in return. "Take it." please." As Maya slowly accepted the sandwich, Tom lowered himself to sit on the bottom bleacher, his knees protesting the movement. The keyring clinked against the metal seat, each key catching the dim light. The sound seemed to echo in the quiet gym, like the toll of a decision bell. "Want to tell me what's going on?" he asked, not looking directly at her, giving her space to find her words. Maya took a small bite of the sandwich, then another larger one as her hunger won out. "They left," she finally said, her voice barely above a whisper. "My mom and her new husband just left, packed up while I was at school on Monday. There was a note saying they were moving to Florida, that I was old enough to figure things out." She swallowed hard. "They changed their numbers. The landlord came yesterday." Tom's hand tightened around his keyring until the metal bit into his palm. The pain helped him focus, helped him push down the anger rising in his chest. What kind of parents could just abandon their child? But he knew that showing his anger wouldn't help Maya right now. "Listen," he said carefully, each word measured. "I have a spare room. It's small and the house isn't much, but—" He trailed off, realizing how this might sound. "My son Jimmy is there, and our neighbor Mrs. Chen is like family. You'd be safe." Maya looked up sharply, disbelief warring with desperate hope in her eyes. "You don't even know me." Tom stood slowly, keys jingling with the movement. "I know enough," he said simply. "I know you're a kid who needs help, and I know I couldn't sleep at night if I left you here." He held up his keyring, letting it catch the light. "Besides, I'm the one with all the keys. Pretty sure that makes me trustworthy." The ghost of a smile touched Maya's lips, the first he'd seen all night. It reminded him of Sarah's smile, of the way she could find light in the darkest moments. Tom felt something shift in his chest, like a key turning in a lock he hadn't known was there. "Come on," he said softly. "Let's get you somewhere warm." Tom's hand trembled slightly as he pulled the crumpled permission slip from his wallet. Jimmy's field trip to the Science Museum, $40 he didn't have, due by Friday. Now, watching Maya settle nervously onto his worn couch, that simple piece of paper felt like an accusation. What was he thinking, taking in another mouth to feed when he could barely manage as it was? The kitchen clock ticked loudly in the midnight silence. 10:30 p.m. He should call Mrs. Chen, explain the situation. But first, he needed to make up the couch. The spare room he'd mentioned was more of a storage closet, filled with boxes of Sarah's things he still couldn't bring himself to sort through. That would have to wait until tomorrow. "I'll get you some blankets," Tom said, tucking the permission slip back into his wallet. Each step down the hallway brought a new worry. What if child services found out? What if the school board questioned him? What if— The sound of Jimmy's door creaking open stopped him mid-stride. "Dad?" His son stood in the doorway, pajamas rumpled, clutching the stuffed dragon Sarah had given him on his last birthday before she died. "I heard voices." Tom glanced back toward the living room, then knelt down to Jimmy's level. "Hey, buddy, what happened to sleeping at Mrs. Chen's?" "She got a call from her daughter. Emergency with the baby. She brought me home an hour ago." Jimmy peered around Tom's shoulder, his eyes widening at the sight of Maya. "Who's that?" Before Tom could answer, the phone rang, its shrill tone cutting through the quiet house. Mrs. Chen's number flashed on the screen. Tom caught Maya's frightened look from the couch as he answered. "Tom, I'm so sorry about bringing Jimmy home early. The baby had a fever and—" Mrs. Chen's voice carried the familiar warmth that had helped him through his darkest days after. "Sarah's passing. It's okay," Tom interrupted gently. "Actually, I need your advice." He walked into the kitchen, lowering his voice. "I found one of my students at the school. She's been abandoned by her family. I brought her home." The silence on the other end seemed to stretch forever. Finally, Mrs. Chen spoke, her voice careful. "You're a good man, Tom Mitchell. Just like Sarah always said, but this could cause trouble." "I know." Tom pulled out the permission slip again, smoothing its wrinkled surface. "I can barely afford Jimmy's field trip, let alone—" "Bring them both over for breakfast tomorrow," Mrs. Chen cut in. "My Chen's famous pancakes. We'll figure something out." She paused. "And Tom, Sarah would be proud of you." The permission slip blurred in front of him as his eyes welled up. "Thank you," he managed. When he returned to the living room, he found Jimmy had already introduced himself to Maya and was showing her his dragon, explaining its magical powers in the earnest way only a 10-year-old could. Maya was listening intently, her earlier fear softening into something closer to wonder. "And Dad says Mom picked him because dragons protect people," Jimmy was saying. "You can borrow him tonight if you want, for protection." Maya looked up at Tom, her eyes glistening. "I couldn't." "Dragon's choice," Jimmy declared solemnly, placing the stuffed animal in her lap. "Dad says that too. When something's meant to be, it chooses you." Tom felt his throat tighten. He'd told Jimmy that the day Sarah died trying to explain why sometimes good people leave us. Now here they were, chosen by someone who needed them as much as they needed her. "Mrs. Chen invited us for breakfast tomorrow," Tom said, pulling out blankets from the hallway closet. "Her pancakes are legendary." "With chocolate chips?" Jimmy bounced excitedly. "We'll see." Tom began making up the couch, his movements automatic. As his mind raced through logistics, he'd need to talk to the principal, figure out the legal implications, maybe pick up extra shifts. The permission slip fell from his wallet as he leaned over to tuck in the sheets. Maya picked it up before he could reach it, her eyes scanning the form. "I'm good at math," she said quietly. I could tutor after school. To help with expenses." She held out the slip, her hand steady. "I want to contribute if I'm staying." Tom looked at this teenager, already trying to carry adult burdens, then at his son, who was beaming at his new friend. The weight of the decision pressed down on him like a physical thing. But sometimes, he realized, the hardest choices were also the simplest. "You're staying," he said firmly, taking the permission slip and ripping it in half. "We'll figure out the rest tomorrow, together." Jimmy cheered, and even Maya smiled, a real smile this time, one that reached her eyes. Outside, snow began to fall, covering Mountain View in a clean white blanket, like a fresh page waiting to be written. Dawn crept through the living room curtains, catching the dust motes in pale strips of light. Maya woke with a start, momentarily disoriented by the unfamiliar ceiling. Jimmy's stuffed dragon was still clutched in her arms, its worn fabric soft. Against her cheek, from somewhere in the house came the sound of running water and the quiet clink of dishes. Her eyes landed on a photo hanging crooked on the wall. A younger Tom, with a beautiful dark-haired woman, both of them laughing as they held a toddler Jimmy between them. The woman's smile was exactly like her son's, bright and unguarded. Something about the way the picture hung, slightly askew as if no one had been able to bring themselves to straighten it, made Maya's chest ache. "That's my mom." Jimmy's voice made her jump. He stood in his pajamas, hair tousled from sleep, staring at the photo. "Dad says she was the best at everything, making pancakes, telling stories, fixing broken stuff." He paused, picking at a loose thread on his sleeve. "She got sick when I was 7. Maya sat up slowly, unsure what to say. Her own mother had been alive and well yesterday morning, making coffee and complaining about the neighbor's dog. Now she was gone by choice, while Jimmy's mom, "She's pretty," Maya finally managed. "Yeah." Jimmy climbed onto the couch beside her. "Dad doesn't talk about her much anymore, but sometimes I catch him looking at that picture when he thinks I'm not watching." He leaned in conspiratorially. "The frame's crooked because that's how Mom always hung it. Dad says she did it on purpose, to drive him crazy. He won't let anyone fix it." The sound of footsteps in the hallway made them both look up. Tom appeared, already dressed in his janitor's uniform, his face drawn with lack of sleep. "Morning," he said, trying to sound casual, as if finding 2 kids on his couch instead of 1 was an everyday occurrence. "Sleep okay?" Maya nodded, suddenly very aware of her rumpled clothes and unwashed face. "I didn't mean to sleep so late." "It's 6 a.m., Tom interrupted gently. "And it's Saturday." He ran a hand through his graying hair. "I picked up an extra shift, but Mrs. Chen is expecting you both for breakfast at 8. Jimmy knows the way." "I can show you all the shortcuts." Jimmy bounced excitedly. And her cat, Chairman Meow, that's what she named him. He likes to hide behind the flower pots and jump out at people, but don't worry, he's super friendly. Tom watched his son's enthusiastic explanation with a mix of amusement and something deeper, more complicated. His eyes drifted to the crooked photo, then quickly away. "Maya," he said quietly, "we'll need to figure out some things. School on Monday, proper arrangements." He trailed off, the weight of everything they weren't saying filling the space between them. "I understand if it's too much," Maya started, but Jimmy cut her off. "Dad, can Maya have Mom's old dresser, the one in the storage room, and maybe some of the blankets? The purple ones Mom liked." He turned to Maya. "They're really soft. Mom said they were magic because they could make anyone feel better." Tom's face did something complex, like he was trying to hold too many emotions at once. He looked at the photo again, longer this time. When he spoke, his voice was rough. "Your mom would have liked that, buddy. She always said good blankets were important." Maya felt tears pricking at her eyes. These people had lost so much, had every reason to guard what little they had left. Instead, here they were, offering her pieces of their most precious memories. "I should head out," Tom said, checking his watch. "Maya, the bathroom's down the hall if you want to shower." "Jimmy, remember what we talked about with Mrs. Chen? No sugar before breakfast, no climbing her apple tree, and always pet Chairman Meow twice, not 3 times, or he gets too excited," Jimmy recited dutifully. A ghost of a smile touched Tom's tired face. "That's my boy." He hesitated, then added, "Maya, there's a spare toothbrush under the sink. Blue one. It's yours if you want it." The simple offer, a toothbrush, a permanent place to put it, made Maya's throat tight. She nodded, not trusting herself to speak. After Tom left, Jimmy showed her to the bathroom, chattering about Mrs. Chen's pancakes and Chairman Meow's various adventures. Maya caught her reflection in the mirror, dark circles under her eyes, hair a mess. But something was different. Behind her, the crooked photo was visible through the doorway, that happy family frozen in time. As she brushed her teeth with the blue toothbrush, Maya made a silent promise to the woman in the photo. She would find a way to help put this family back together, even if she had to start with something as simple as straightening a frame. Then she remembered what Jimmy had said about his mom hanging it crooked on purpose, and she smiled around. Her toothbrush. Maybe some things were better a little off-kilter. Principal Davis's office had always reminded Tom of a museum, everything precisely arranged, not a paper out of place. Now, watching her fill out the incident report with careful strokes of her Mont Blanc pen, that sterile perfection felt suffocating. The morning sunshine through her window caught the gold nameplate on her desk, Dr. Eleanor Davis, Principal. Below it sat the half-completed form, its stark official letterhead seeming to mock him. Mountain View High School. Incident report. "Let me make sure I understand this correctly, Mr. Mitchell." Her voice was measured, each word deliberately. "Chosen. You discovered a student living in the gymnasium on Friday night, and instead of contacting authorities, you took her to your home." Tom's uniform felt too tight around his collar. "Maya Thompson. Her parents abandoned her, Dr. Davis, left her with nothing but a note and a backpack." "And you have this note?" "No, but so we have no proof of abandonment." She made another notation on the form. "Mr. Mitchell, I've known you for 15 years. You're a good employee, a dedicated father. But this situation," and she gestured at the paper between them, "this could cost you your job. It could cost the school its reputation." The words hit him like physical blows. His job was all that stood between his family and disaster. Now, with Maya depending on them too. A knock at the door interrupted his spiraling thoughts. Ms. Peterson, the English teacher, poked her head in. "Sorry to interrupt, but Maya Thompson is here. Says she needs to speak with you both." Maya stood in the doorway, shoulders straight, despite her obvious nervousness. She'd borrowed one of Sarah's old blouses that morning. Tom had found her, going through the storage room boxes, apologizing profusely, but the blouse had fit her perfectly. Now she looked both younger and older somehow, like a child trying to armor herself with adulthood. "Come in, Miss Thompson." Principal Davis's tone shifted subtly, becoming what Tom recognized as her counselor voice. "We were just discussing your situation. I have something you should see." Maya's voice shook slightly, but her steps were steady as she approached the desk. She pulled out her phone, opened it to her messages, and placed it in front of the principal. "My mum's last text to me, and the ones that bounce back after they change their numbers." Principal Davis picked up the phone, her expression unchanging as she scrolled. But Tom saw her free hand tighten on her pen. "They cleaned out my college fund too," Maya continued quietly. "I checked online banking Friday morning. The account was empty." She swallowed hard. "I didn't know where else to go. Mr. Mitchell, he was kind when no one else was." The principal set the phone down carefully, then looked at the incident report in front of her. After a long moment, she picked up her pen and drew a single, firm line through everything she'd written. "Miss Thompson, are you feeling safe in Mr. Mitchell's home?" "Yes." Maya's answer came without hesitation. "His son Jimmy gave me his stuffed dragon for protection. Their neighbor Mrs. Chen made us pancakes, and—" She glanced at Tom, something fierce and protective crossing her face. "Mr. Mitchell gave up his dinner to feed me that first night. He didn't know me, but he helped anyway. Isn't that what we're supposed to do? Help people who need it?" Principal Davis studied them both, her expression unreadable. Finally, she opened her desk drawer and pulled out a fresh incident report form. "Here's what's going to happen," she said, her tone businesslike but notably softer. "I'm filing this as a student welfare incident. Maya, you'll meet with our school counselor daily for the next 2 weeks. Mr. Mitchell, you'll need to start proper fostering paperwork. I have a friend at Social Services who can help expedite things." She began writing again, this time with purpose. "And if anyone asks, Maya came to you through proper channels after her situation was officially reported. Understood?" Tom felt something tight in his chest begin to loosen. "Yes, ma'am." "And Mr. Mitchell?" She looked up, her professional mask slipping just enough to show a hint of warmth. "Next time a student needs help, come to me first. That's what I'm here for." As they left the office, Tom noticed Maya was trembling slightly. Without thinking, he put a steadying hand on her shoulder, the way he would with Jimmy. "Thank you," he said softly, "for standing up for me in there." Maya looked up at him, her eyes bright with unshed tears. "You stood up for me first." She managed a wobbly smile. "Besides, Jimmy would never forgive me if his dad got in trouble because of me. He's already planning to show me all the best hiding spots for Chairman Meow games." Tom laughed, the sound echoing in the empty hallway. Behind them, through the office window, he could see Principal Davis carefully filing away the new incident report, no longer a threat but a promise of protection. Sometimes, he realized, the biggest risks brought the greatest rewards. "Come on," he said, giving her shoulder a gentle squeeze. "Let's get you to class. I hear Ms. Peterson's covering To Kill a Mockingbird today. Something about standing up for what's right, even when it's hard." Maya's smile steadied. "I think I'm starting to understand that lesson pretty well." The storage room was a time capsule of memories. Maya had been organizing it for 3 days now, carefully sorting through boxes while Tom was at work. She'd promised to help make space for a proper bed, but each box felt like a chapter of their family history she was being trusted to read. That's how she found the journal, tucked away in a box labeled workshop stuff in Sarah's flowing handwriting. It was leather-bound, the cover worn smooth with age, a pencil still stuck in its spine. Maya almost missed it beneath old woodworking magazines and sketches of furniture designs. "Dad used to make things," Jimmy said from the doorway, making her jump. He had a habit of appearing silently like a small ghost. "Really beautiful things. Mum said he had magic in his hands." Maya opened the journal carefully. The first page held a dedication to Tom, for dreams too big to keep in your head. "Love, Sarah, Christmas 2012. The pages that followed were filled with sketches and plans, each one more detailed than the last. Custom cabinets with hidden compartments, rocking chairs with intricate carvings, toy chests that transformed into miniature stages for puppet shows. In the margins, Sarah had written little notes, perfect for Mrs. Chen's kitchen. Or Jimmy would love this when he's older. He had a workshop in the garage, Jimmy continued, settling beside her on the floor. But after Mum died, he sold all his tools. Said we needed the money for bills. He picked up one of the sketches that had fallen loose, a child's bed shaped like a dragon. He was going to make this for me. Maya studied the design. The headboard would have been carved to look like dragon wings, the footboard a tail that curved protectively around the sleeper. In the corner of the page, Tom had written, "For my little knight, his own dragon to watch over his dreams." "Your dad's really talented," Maya said softly. "Was," Jimmy corrected. "He doesn't make anything anymore. Just fixes stuff at school." He traced the dragon's tail with one finger. Mum used to say he could fix anything except his own dreams. Maya turned another page and found a business plan, written in Tom's neat handwriting. Mitchell's Custom Woodcraft, where dreams take shape. There were budget calculations, market research, even a list of potential first clients. But across the bottom, in more recent handwriting, Tom had written, "Some dreams don't survive reality." "Why are you crying?" Jimmy asked suddenly. Maya touched her cheek, surprised to find it wet. "Because sometimes," she said carefully, "when people help us, they forget how to help themselves." She thought about Tom, working late shifts to afford Jimmy's field trip, about the way he'd given up his own dinner that first night, how he'd risked his job to help her, all while his own dreams gathered dust in a box labeled by his dead wife's hand. "Jimmy," she said slowly, an idea taking shape, "does your dad still have any of his old tools?" "Just his basic set for school repairs." But Jimmy's eyes lit up with sudden understanding. "Mr. Rodriguez at the hardware store. He bought most of Dad's stuff. He still has it in his storage room because he said—" Jimmy screwed up his face, remembering. "He said, some things are too precious to resell." Maya looked down at the journal again. The last entry was dated just weeks before Sarah's death. A design for a hope chest, its lid carved with roses and hummingbirds. In the margin, Sarah had written her final note, "For our future granddaughter. Dream big, my love." "Jimmy," Maya said, closing the journal gently, "I need your help with something. But it has to be our secret, like a mission, like knights on a quest." Jimmy's whole face lit up. "Exactly like that." Maya tucked the journal carefully into her backpack. "We're going to help your dad remember how to dream again. Can we tell Mrs. Chen? She's really good at secrets, and Chairman Meow never talks." Maya laughed, feeling hope bubble up in her chest for the first time in days. "Yes, we can tell Mrs. Chen. I think we're going to need all the help we can get." That evening, when Tom came home exhausted from his shift, Maya watched him with new eyes. His hands, rough from work, but gentle when he helped Jimmy with homework, still held that magic Jimmy had mentioned. They just needed to remind him it was there. "Everything okay?" Tom asked, noticing her gaze. "You've been quiet tonight." Maya thought of the journal in her backpack, of Sarah's notes and Tom's forgotten dreams. "Just thinking about the future," she said. "About how sometimes it takes a whole family to build something beautiful." Tom's expression softened, and for a moment Maya could see the craftsman he used to be, the one who believed dreams could take shape under careful hands. "Speaking of building," he said, "thank you for organizing the storage room. I know it's not easy going through—" He trailed off, gesturing vaguely at all the memories boxed away. "Some things are worth taking care of," Maya said, thinking of Jimmy's dragon, of crooked photos and blue toothbrushes and dreams tucked away in leather. "Journals, even if they're a little dusty." The community bulletin board at Walker's General Store had always been a patchwork of local life. Lost cats, piano lessons, church bake sales, each flyer telling its own small story. Maya stood before it now, clutching her carefully crafted notice, wondering if she was brave enough to add her story to the mix. "Need help reaching that pushpin, dear?" Mrs. Walker's voice startled her. The store owner was a tiny woman with silver hair and keen eyes that missed nothing. "You're Tom Mitchell's girl, aren't you? The one staying with them?" Maya's hand tightened on her flyer. News traveled fast in small towns. "Yes, ma'am, I'm Maya." Mrs. Walker studied her with gentle curiosity. "Tom Mitchell's been shopping here since before Jimmy was born. Sarah used to say he was the only customer who could tell her exact price of everything in the store, down to the penny." She smiled softly. "That man could stretch a dollar further than anyone I've known." Maya looked down at her flyer. She'd spent hours working on it, trying to find the right words, seeking woodworking tools and memories. "Did Tom Mitchell ever make something special for you? Did you ever see his work at the old Mountain View craft fair? Do you have photos, stories, or tools from his workshop days? Help us surprise someone who's always helping others. Contact Maya or Jimmy with Mrs. Chen. Discretion appreciated." "He doesn't know, does he?" Mrs. Walker asked, reading over Maya's shoulder. "No, ma'am." Maya swallowed hard. "I found his old journal. He used to make such beautiful things. But after his wife died, after Sarah died, he sold everything to keep Jimmy in clothes and food," Mrs. Walker finished, "including that gorgeous display cabinet he made for my shop window." She pointed to the front of the store, where an intricately carved wooden cabinet still held pride of place. "Refused to take full price for it even then. Said he owed me for all the times I'd let him run a tab." Maya moved closer to the cabinet, running her fingers over the delicate leaf patterns carved into its corners. "It's amazing." Tom Mitchell's hands were meant for creating beauty, not scrubbing floors. Mrs. Walker took the flyer from Maya's grasp and picked up a red pushpin. "Lucky for you, I happen to host the Tuesday morning coffee club. All the old-timers who remember Tom's work will be here tomorrow." She pinned the flyer in the center of the board, "and I might know where a certain set of custom chisels ended up." Maya's heart leaped. "Really?" Sarah gave them to him for their 5th anniversary. Japanese steel, handcrafted handles. Tom used to say they were too fine to use on everyday projects. Mrs. Walker's eyes grew distant. "He sold them to my Harold, right before... well, Harold never had the heart to use them. They're still in their original case in our attic. Would you consider selling them back?" Mrs. Walker smiled. "Oh, no, dear. Some things aren't for selling, but I think it's time they found their way home." She patted Maya's hand. "Bring Jimmy by after school tomorrow. We'll have cookies, and I'll tell you both stories about the furniture Tom used to make for the Christmas craft fair." As if summoned by the mention of cookies, Jimmy appeared from between the aisles, Chairman Meow's treats clutched in one hand. "Maya, Mrs. Chen says we need to hurry, or Dad will beat us home." "Coming." Maya turned back to Mrs. Walker. "Thank you for everything. Thank you, dear." Mrs. Walker's eyes were bright. "It's been too long since someone cared enough to help Tom Mitchell remember who he used to be." On their walk home, Jimmy clutched his cat treats while Maya held something far more precious, hope. "Mrs. Walker really liked your flyer," he said proudly, "and she's going to help, just like Mrs. Chen." "It's a start," Maya agreed, "but we'll need more help. Your dad gave up so much to take care of me," Jimmy finished quietly. "I know. But now we're taking care of him, right? Like a real family?" Maya thought of the journal hidden in her backpack, of Mrs. Walker's cabinet, of the chisels waiting to come home. "Yeah," she said softly, "like a real family." They reached home just as Tom's truck pulled into the driveway. He looked tired, but smiled when he saw them. "Good timing," he called out. "I was thinking pizza tonight, though I should probably check the budget first." Maya and Jimmy exchanged knowing looks. Soon, they hoped, Tom Mitchell wouldn't have to check the budget quite so carefully. Soon, his hands would remember the feel of fine chisels and smooth wood. Soon, his dreams would take shape again. But for now, Maya just smiled and said, "Pizza sounds perfect." The progress report sat on Maya's desk, its bright green header almost cheerful. Mountain View High School, mid-quarter assessment. Ms. Peterson had handed it to her with a quiet smile, but it was the handwritten note at the bottom that made Maya's throat tight. Remarkable improvement. Whatever changes you've made at home, they're working. Keep it up. 5 A's and 1 B+. A month ago, when she was spending nights, wondering where she'd sleep, and days trying not to fall asleep in class, such grades had seemed impossible. Now, Maya, Dad's making spaghetti. Jimmy's voice carried up the stairs. He's using Mom's secret recipe. The recipe wasn't actually secret. Maya had found it tucked in the family cookbook, Sarah's handwriting noting, "Add extra garlic. It makes Tom smile." But Jimmy loved calling it secret, just like he loved helping Tom measure out the ingredients with exaggerated care. Maya tucked the progress report into her backpack and headed downstairs. The kitchen was warm with steam and the rich smell of tomato sauce. Tom stood at the stove, wooden spoon in hand, while Jimmy carefully counted out pieces of garlic bread. 7 pieces, Jimmy announced. That's 2 each, plus 1 for Chairman Meow. Chairman Meow doesn't need garlic bread, Tom said, but his eyes crinkled with amusement. Mrs. Chen feeds him well enough. But he's family, Jimmy insisted, and Maya said family shares. Tom's stirring faltered for just a moment. He looked at Maya, something soft and vulnerable crossing his face. She did, huh? Maya felt her cheeks warm. She'd been helping Jimmy with his vocabulary homework earlier, explaining the word family for his definitions list. She hadn't realized he'd taken it so much to heart. Speaking of family stuff, Tom continued, his voice carefully casual. Principal, Davis called today. The fostering paperwork is moving forward. We'll need to meet with a social worker next week, but he tasted the sauce, added a pinch of something. If you want to stay, make this permanent. It's looking good. Maya gripped the back of a kitchen chair, suddenly dizzy with the weight of what he was offering. Permanent, a real home, a real family, not just temporary shelter. I got my progress report today, she blurted out, needing him to know she was worth this investment. She pulled it from her backpack with trembling hands. Tom wiped his hands on a dish towel and took the paper. His eyes widened slightly as he read, Maya, this is incredible. Miss Peterson said I've improved, she said quickly, and I've been helping other students in math, like I promised, to earn my keep. Hey, Tom set the report down and gripped her shoulders gently. You don't have to earn your keep. You're not, he struggled for words. You're not a tenant, Maya. You're family, or you can be if you want to be. Even though I'm expensive, the words slipped out before she could stop them. Even though you had to buy me new clothes and school supplies, and even though nothing, Tom interrupted firmly. Sarah and I, his voice caught slightly. We always wanted a bigger family. Life had other plans, but maybe, he glanced at Jimmy, who was pretending not to listen while methodically breaking the garlic bread into exactly equal pieces. Maybe life just had a different timeline in mind. The timer dinged, making them all jump. Tom turned back to the stove, blinking rapidly. Maya picked up her progress report, running her fingers over Ms. Peterson's note. Whatever changes you've made at home, they're working. Dad, she tried out the word carefully, like testing ice to see if it would hold. Can I help with the sauce? Tom's back stiffened, then relaxed. When he turned around, his eyes were suspiciously bright, but his smile was steady. Sure. Want to learn the secret recipe? Sarah always said it was important for kids to know their family recipes. Jimmy gasped dramatically. But it's secret. That's okay, Maya said, moving to stand beside Tom at the stove. I'm good at keeping secrets. As Tom showed her how to stir from the bottom so nothing sticks, Maya thought about other secrets. The journal hidden in her room, Mrs. Walker's chisels waiting to come home, the growing stack of responses to her flyer. Soon they'd help Tom remember his own dreams. But for now, this was enough. Learning to make spaghetti sauce that would make him smile, being part of a family that counted out garlic bread for cats, finding her place in this home that had opened its doors and its heart to her. Extra garlic, she whispered, reaching for the cloves. It makes him smile. Tom looked at her sharply, but Maya just kept stirring, hiding her own smile in the steam. Some secrets she was learning were like seeds. They needed time in the dark before they could grow into something beautiful. The Mountain View Gazette wasn't much of a newspaper. 8 pages on a good week, mostly filled with high school sports scores and announcements about the volunteer fire department's pancake breakfasts. But there, on page 3, was a story that made Maya's heart skip. Local family proves love knows no bounds. She'd noticed the reporter Ann Chen, Mrs. Chen's niece, taking photos at last week's school basketball game. Maya had been helping Tom clean up afterward, both of them laughing as Jimmy demonstrated his future NBA moves with a mop handle. She hadn't thought anything of the camera clicks. Now, seeing the black and white photo beneath the headline, Tom, showing Jimmy how to properly wring out a mop while Maya held the bucket, all 3 of them caught in a moment of natural happiness. She understood why Mrs. Chen had been smiling so mysteriously lately. A year ago, Tom Mitchell was just another single father working 2 jobs to make ends meet, the article began. Today, he's showing our community what family really means. Is that us? Jimmy's voice came from behind her shoulder, making Maya jump. He climbed onto the cafeteria bench beside her, sandwich forgotten in his hand. We're in the newspaper? Your dad's going to flip, Maya said, but she couldn't help smiling. The article was beautiful. Not just the story of how she'd come to live with them, but quotes from teachers about Tom's dedication to the school, from Mrs. Walker about his years of quiet service to the community, from Principal Davis about his integrity. Mitchell never asks for help, Mrs. Walker was quoted as saying. Even when Sarah passed, he just worked harder, loved harder. Now he's opened his heart and home to another child in need. That's the kind of man he is, always giving, never counting the cost. Can I keep this part of the paper? Jimmy asked, carefully tearing around the edges of the article. For my memory box? Maya remembered the shoebox under his bed, filled with ticket stubs from school plays, photos of his mum, drawings he was proud of. Better let me cut it out properly, she said, taking out her scissors. We don't want to mess it up. Maya, Jimmy! Tom's voice echoed across the cafeteria. He was walking quickly toward them, a copy of the Gazette clutched in his hand, his face a mix of emotions she couldn't quite read. We saw it too, Jimmy said excitedly. We're famous. I didn't know they were writing. Tom sat down heavily. Beside them, Mrs. Chen's niece. I should have guessed when I saw her with the camera. He trailed off, staring at the photo. Are you mad? Maya asked quietly. Tom looked up sharply. Mad? No, honey, I'm not mad. He smoothed the paper with work-roughened hands. I'm not used to people noticing us. After Sarah died, it was easier to just fade into the background, you? No. Maya thought about his dream journal, about the way he'd packed away his talents along with his grief. Maybe it's time people noticed, she said carefully. Maybe it's time to stop fading. Tom gave her a long look, like he was trying to read something beneath her words. Before he could respond, a shadow fell across their table. Mitchell. Mr. Rodriguez from the hardware store stood there, newspaper tucked under his arm. Been meaning to talk to you. Got some things in storage you might be interested in. Maya's heart leaped. Mr. Rodriguez had bought most of Tom's old tools. Jimmy had told her the whole story. Was he offering? But Tom was already shaking his head. Thanks, but I can't afford. Who said anything about paying? Mr. Rodriguez interrupted gruffly. Been taking up space in my back room for 3 years. About time they went back to someone who knows how to use them proper. He cleared his throat. My grandson's getting married next spring. Needs a decent hope chest, something solid. Thought maybe we could work something out. Maya held her breath. Tom was staring at the newspaper again, at the photo of their unlikely family. I haven't made anything in years, he said softly. Some things you don't forget, Mr. Rodriguez said, like being a craftsman or being a father. He nodded toward Maya and Jimmy. Read the article. Seems to me you're still building beautiful things, Mitchell, just a different kind. After he walked away, they sat in silence for a moment. Jimmy was still carefully cutting out the article, his tongue stuck out in concentration. Tom ran his thumb over the photo, over their captured smiles. He's right, you know. Maya said, thinking of the journal hidden in her room, of Sarah's notes about Tom's magic hands. Some things you don't forget. Yeah, Tom said quietly. Yeah, maybe. He straightened suddenly, squaring his shoulders. Mr. Rodriguez is a good man, and a hope chest. That's a good project to start with. Simple lines, but it matters. It's for family. Maya thought of Sarah's last note in the journal about a hope chest for a future granddaughter. She touched the newspaper photo gently. Everything you build is for family, she said. Everything. Tom's smile was like watching a sunrise, slow and quiet, but full of light. When did you get so wise? He asked, ruffling her hair the way he did Jimmy's. Maya leaned into the touch, savoring this new normal. Must be all those Mitchell family secret recipes, she said. They're very educational. Their laughter echoed across the cafeteria, and Maya saw Ann Chen taking notes at a distant table, smiling. Tomorrow's paper would probably have another story about the Mitchell family. But the real story, the one about dreams coming back to life, about tools finding their way home, that one was still their secret, for now. The envelope appeared in Mrs. Chen's mailbox on a Tuesday morning, unmarked except for a single word, workshop. Inside was $500 in crisp 20s and a note written in shaky handwriting. For Tom Mitchell's tools. He made my Alice's rocking chair 20 years ago. She sat in it every day until she passed. It's time he started making beautiful things again. Maya sat at Mrs. Chen's kitchen table, staring at the money, while Chairman Meow wound around her ankles. I can't accept this, she whispered. It's too much. Mr. Peters has been coming to my Tuesday coffee group for 15 years, Mrs. Chen said, pouring more tea. Ever since his Alice died. He doesn't spend money on anything except bird feed and coffee. She smiled gently. Let him do this, Maya. Some gifts are as much for the giver as the receiver. The kitchen window was cracked open, letting in the sounds of early spring, birds returning, children playing, life waking up. On Mrs. Chen's counter sat a growing stack of similar envelopes, each with its own story. $20 from the school librarian, for the man who fixed my shelves for free. $50 from Principal Davis, investment in our community's future. Various amounts from people Maya had never met, but who remembered Tom's work. We have almost $2,000 now, Jimmy said proudly, looking up from where he was sorting the tool catalog Mr. Rodriguez had provided. He'd circled the most important items in red crayon, adding helpful notes like, Dad really needs this one, and this makes the wood super smooth. But we need more than just tools, Maya said, pulling out her notebook, a cheaper version of Tom's dream journal, but filled with the same kind of hope. Mr. Rodriguez is helping with the workshop space, and Mrs. Walker's getting the old display. Cabinet ready, but we still need... A knock at the door interrupted her inventory. Chairman Meow darted under the table as Mrs. Chen went to answer it. I hope I'm not too late for the meeting. Ms. Peterson stood in the doorway, clutching a canvas bag. I brought muffins, and... She pulled out a folder. I found these in the school archives. Photos from the craft fairs where Tom used to show his work. I thought maybe for the workshop walls, Maya finished, excitement bubbling up. To remind him, the teacher smiled, setting down her offerings. When you first came to us, Maya, you were so quiet in class. Now look at you, organizing secret meetings, rallying the whole town. Maya felt her cheeks warm. I know what it's like to lose something, to need help finding it again. She touched one of the photos Miss Peterson had brought. Tom, standing proudly beside her intricately carved desk, Sarah beaming at his side. He helped me find my place. I want to help him find his. Speaking of finding things, Mrs. Chen said, reaching into a cabinet, look what my nephew discovered in his grandfather's attic. She pulled out a wooden sign, its letters carved deep and filled with gold paint, Mitchell's Custom Woodcraft, where dreams take shape. Jimmy gasped. Dad's old shop sign. He told me about the gold letters. He did them 3 times to get them perfect. Maya ran her fingers over the carved words. The paint was faded, but the craftsmanship was still clear. every curve and line done with love and pride. "There's more," Miss Peterson said, pulling out her phone. "The other teachers want to help. Mr. Harrison teaches shop class now, but he says his students only use the equipment 3 days a week. He's offering to let Tom use the school's workshop on off days until we get his space ready." Maya added it to her notebook. School workshop, temporary space. The list was growing. Tools to buy, space to renovate, skills to reawaken, dreams to rebuild. Sometimes it felt overwhelming, this secret they were all keeping. But then she'd catch Tom looking at his hands with a kind of longing, or find Jimmy drawing pictures of the things he wished his dad could make, and she knew it was worth it. "Oh," Jimmy exclaimed suddenly, "I almost forgot." He pulled a crumpled paper from his pocket. "Dad's birthday is in 3 weeks. I saw it on the calendar this morning." Maya exchanged looks with Mrs. Chen and Ms. Peterson. 3 weeks to get everything ready. To turn all these separate pieces, tools and money and memories and hope, into something whole. "Then we'd better get to work," Mrs. Chen said, pulling out her own notebook. "Now, about the electrical wiring in the old workshop space." Maya looked around the kitchen, at Jimmy with his crayon-marked catalogue, Ms. Peterson with her archived photos, Mrs. Chen with her practical plans, even Chairman Meow watching attentively from under the table. This was what family looked like, she realized. Not just the people under your roof, but all the ones who held pieces of your story, who helped you remember who you were meant to be. She opened her notebook to a fresh page and wrote at the top, "Operation Birthday Workshop, 21 days. Below it she added, "Step 1, remind him that dreams don't have expiration dates." The garage door creaked open reluctantly, as if guarding its secrets. Maya stood beside Mr. Rodriguez in the dusty afternoon light, watching as he pulled a tarp off what looked like an ordinary workbench. But the moment his flashlight beam hit, she knew it was anything but ordinary. "Tom built this his first year of marriage," Mr. Rodriguez said, running weathered hands over the scarred wood. "Sarah helped him design the storage system underneath. See how each drawer has these little carved labels. She drew them, he carved them, took them a whole weekend." Maya knelt to read the labels. Chisels, finishing tools, Sarah's projects, dreams in progress. The last one made her throat tight. "Most folks just write on their drawers with a marker," Mr. Rodriguez continued, pulling open the Dreams in Progress drawer. Inside lay a single wooden puzzle piece, perfectly carved. He was making a set for Jimmy before, well, never finished. Jimmy, who had been unusually quiet, picked up the puzzle piece. "I remember this. Mom was helping design the picture. A dragon protecting its treasure." He smiled slightly. "Dad said the treasure would be our whole family." Maya added it to her mental inventory of things to restore. They had 17 days until Tom's birthday, and the list kept growing. Replace the cracked windows, fix the electricity, clean years of dust, restore the workbench, reunite it with its tools. But looking at that single puzzle piece in Jimmy's, and she knew every minute would be worth it. "Found something else you might want to see," Mr. Rodriguez said, reaching behind the bench. He pulled out a wooden toolbox, its surface rich with age and use. His grandfather's. Tom used to say these tools taught him everything he knew about working with wood. The toolbox opened with a familiar creak. Maya recognized it from one of the videos Mrs. Walker had found, where Tom demonstrated basic woodworking techniques for the craft fair. Inside, nestled in custom-fitted compartments, lay a set of hand tools that looked almost new, despite their age. "He cleaned them every Sunday," Jimmy said suddenly. "I remember watching him. He said his grandpa taught him that respect for your tools means respect for your craft." "Speaking of tools," Mr. Rodriguez pulled out his phone. "Got the list from your Tuesday meeting. My supplier in Cedar Rapids can get us most of what we need at wholesale, though..." He smiled slightly. "Seems like half the town's already donated their old tools. Amazing what people keep in their attics, just waiting for the right moment." Maya thought of the growing collection in Mrs. Chen's garage, planes and chisels, clamps and measuring tools, each with a note explaining its history. Mr. Mitchell fixed my porch rails in '95. Tom made my daughter's cradle with these. These were my father's. They should belong to someone who'll use them with love. We'll need to replace the lighting, Mr. Rodriguez continued, flicking a switch that produced nothing but a faint buzz. And the heating's shot, but the bones are good. Tom built this place to last. Maya walked the perimeter of the workshop, seeing it through new eyes. The dust-covered windows would flood the space with natural light once cleaned. The pegboard wall still showed shadows where tools had hung. Even the ancient radio in the corner seemed to be waiting patiently for someone to turn it on again. "Look," Jimmy called from near the back wall. "Dad's project board." He was pointing to a large corkboard, still holding a few yellowed papers. "He used to pin up his designs here. Mom would leave him little notes sometimes." Maya moved closer, squinting, at a faded post-it still stuck in one corner. "Remember to dream big, my love." "Yes, we're keeping that," she decided immediately. "Right where it is." Mr. Rodriguez nodded approvingly. "Good call. Man needs his inspiration." He checked his watch. "Tom's shift ends in an hour. We should wrap up here." As they prepared to leave, Maya took one last look around. The space felt less like a tomb of abandoned dreams now, more like a story waiting to continue. She could almost see it. Tom standing at his restored workbench, teaching Jimmy how to use his grandfather's tools, the project board filled with new designs, sawdust catching the sunlight like gold dust. "Maya," Jimmy's voice pulled her back to the present. He was still holding the puzzle piece. Do you think he'll finish it? The puzzle? She thought of the growing stack of envelopes at Mrs. Chen's, of the tools finding their way home, of a whole town coming together to help one man remember who he used to be. "I think," she said carefully, "sometimes the best gifts we can give people are the dreams they set aside." She touched the post-it note gently. "And I think your mom would agree." As they pulled the tarp back over the workbench, Maya could have sworn she felt something shift in the air, like the space itself was waking up, remembering its purpose. 17 days to resurrect a dream. But looking at the determination on Jimmy's face, the quiet confidence in Mr. Rodriguez's movements, she knew they'd make it. After all, they had a master craftsman's toolbox, a dragon puzzle piece, and Sarah's own words to guide them. Remember to dream big. The business license application lay in the center of Tom's empty workbench, its crisp, official letterhead stark against the restored wood. Maya stood in the doorway of the transformed workshop, heart pounding, watching Tom's face as he took in everything at once. The gleaming tools arranged on the pegboard walls, the refinished workbench, the restored windows letting in streams of morning light, and, most importantly, the carved wooden sign hanging above it all. Mitchell's Custom. Woodcraft where dreams take shape. "I don't—" Tom's voice cracked as he ran his hand over his grandfather's restored toolbox. "How did you—" "Happy birthday, Dad," Jimmy said softly, slipping his hand into Tom's. "Maya found your journal, and then everybody wanted to help." "Everybody?" Tom turned slowly, taking in the details they'd labored over for weeks. The project board with its preserved post-it note from Sarah, the new dust collection system Mr. Rodriguez had insisted on, the carefully organized drawers still bearing, the carved labels. As if on cue, the workshop door opened wider. Mrs. Chen entered first, carrying a cake. Behind her came a stream of people. Mr. Rodriguez with his supplier catalogues, Mrs. Walker bearing the restored display cabinet, Principal Davis with a stack of paperwork, Ms. Peterson carrying a photo album of Tom's past work. More followed. Teachers, neighbors, parents of Jimmy's friends, all bearing tools or wood or simply their presence. "The whole town's been in on it," Maya explained, moving to stand beside him. "Every envelope of donated money, every rescued tool, every hour spent cleaning and restoring. They all came with stories about things you'd made, people you'd helped." Tom picked up a chisel from the workbench, one of the Japanese steel ones Mrs. Walker had returned. "I sold these. I had to. After Sarah—" He stopped, overwhelmed. "Some." And things are meant to find their way home, Mrs. Walker said gently, just like some people. She smiled at Maya. Mr. Rodriguez stepped forward, businesslike as always. Shop's up to code, electrical's new, ventilation's better than most professional setups. Got you booked for the Christmas craft fair already. People have been asking about your work since that newspaper article. And the school board approved your use of the workshop during off hours, Principal Davis added. For teaching, if you want. Got some students interested in learning real craftsmanship. Tom sank onto the restored workshop stool, the same one Sarah had painted blue for their first anniversary, now carefully refinished. I can't accept all this. It's too much. Actually, Maya pulled out a folder of her own. You can't afford not to accept it. I did the math. She opened it to reveal careful calculations and projections. With the tools donated and the space restored, your startup costs are covered. There's already a waiting list for commission work. Mrs. Walker's been keeping track of requests. And I found your old business plan in the journal. It's solid. You just needed a little help remembering. A little help? Tom laughed shakily, gesturing at the filled workshop. Maya, this is everything I gave up. No, Jimmy said firmly, sounding suddenly older than his 10 years. Everything you put on hold so you could take care of me. But now, he looked at Maya, now we're taking care of you. That's what families do, right? Tom pulled Jimmy close with one arm, reaching for Maya with the other. She went willingly into the embrace, feeling the tremors running through him. There's one more thing, she said softly. Reaching into her pocket, she pulled out the single wooden puzzle piece they'd found. Jimmy told me about the dragon puzzle you were making, about how the treasure it was protecting was supposed to be your family. She pressed it into his hand. Maybe it's time to finish it, with a few new pieces added. Tom stared at the puzzle piece for a long moment. Then he looked up at the gathered community, at Mrs. Chen wiping tears, at Mr. Rodriguez pretending not to be emotional, at all the people who'd helped resurrect his dream. Finally, his eyes settled on the business license application waiting on his workbench. Where dreams take shape, he read softly, looking at the sign above. Sarah's design, his craftsmanship, preserved and restored like everything else in this space. He stood slowly, keeping one arm around each of his children. Well then, he said, voice rough but strong, I guess we'd better get started. Maya watched as he picked up a pen to sign the application, his hand steady and sure. Through the workshop windows, she could see the first snow of winter beginning to fall, each flake catching the light like sawdust, like magic, like dreams coming back to life, one piece at a time. The bank's rejection letter was polite but firm. While we appreciate your long-standing relationship with Mountain View Community Bank, we regret to inform you that your business loan application does not meet our current lending criteria. Tom read it twice at the kitchen table, then set it down with careful precision, as if handling something volatile. It's just one bank, Maya said quickly. She'd been watching his face, seeing the familiar doubt creeping back in. Mr. Rodriguez, said his cousin at First National might. Maya, Tom's voice was gentle but tired. Maybe this is a sign. The tools, the workshop, that was incredible. More than I deserved. But actually running a business again. The startup costs, the insurance, taking time away from my regular job. He picked up the letter again. Maybe some dreams should stay dreams. Jimmy looked up from his homework, panic flashing across his face. But you promised to teach me. You said we'd make the dragon puzzle together. And we will, buddy, on weekends, as a hobby. Tom reached for his work jacket. I need to head to my shift. Maya, Mrs. Chen's expecting you both for dinner. No. Maya's voice surprised even herself with its firmness. You're not doing this. Tom paused, jacket half on. Doing what? Giving up. Running away. She pulled out her notebook. The one she'd been using to track everything since this started. The community raised more than just tools. There's $3,000 in startup funds. Mrs. Walker's already paid in advance for a custom dining set. Principal Davis wants classroom bookcases. Mr. Peters, it's not enough, Tom interrupted. You saw the numbers yourself. Even with the donated tools, we need working capital, materials, insurance, marketing. Then we'll figure it out. Maya stood up, frustrated tears pricking her eyes. That's what you taught me, isn't it? When you found me in that gym. You didn't look at your budget and decide you couldn't afford another kid. You didn't let fear stop you from doing the right thing. The silence that followed was deafening. Tom stared at her, jacket forgotten in his hands. Jimmy had stopped pretending. To do homework, his pencil frozen mid-equation. Maya, Tom started, but she wasn't finished. I found this in your journal. She pulled out a faded sketch. A hope chest design, with Sarah's last note in the margin about their future granddaughter. You didn't just make furniture. You made people's memories, their stories, their dreams. She took a shaky breath. You gave me a home when I didn't have one. Let us help you build this one. The kitchen clock ticked loudly in the silence. Outside, snow was falling again, coating Mountain View in quiet possibility. Finally, Tom sat back down, jacket sliding too. The floor unnoticed. What did you mean? We'll figure it out, he asked softly. What's your plan? Maya exchanged a quick look with Jimmy, who was already pulling out his own notebook, the one where he'd been drawing logo designs and writing down ideas from his eavesdropping on customer calls at Walker's General Store. First, Maya opened her notebook to the page headed Plan B. We start small. Commission only at first, no inventory costs. Mr. Rodriguez already promised to let you buy materials at wholesale through his account. Mrs. Chen's nephew does web design. He'll build us a website for free if you'll make his mom a rocking chair. The school workshop is free for the first 3 months, Jimmy added excitedly. And I heard Principal Davis telling Mrs. Walker they might contract you for all the school's woodworking needs if the bookcases turn out good. Tom looked between them, something shifting in his expression. You've really thought this through. We learned from the best. Maya smiled slightly. You always say proper planning prevents poor performance. That's your mom's line, Jimmy corrected, from the note in your old tool chest. Tom's hand went to his chest, an unconscious gesture Maya had noticed whenever Sarah was mentioned. But this time, instead of pain, his face showed something different. Determination. The bank's right, he said slowly. By their criteria, this is too risky. He picked up the rejection letter one more time, then deliberately tore it in half. Good. Thing I know some people who believe in impossible things. Like 3-person families built in school gymnasiums. Jimmy whooped, launching himself at his father. Maya felt her shoulders relax for the first time since the letter had arrived. So, Tom said, pulling her into the hug too, tell me more about this Plan B of yours, and then maybe we should talk about Plan C, just in case, after all. He smiled, a real smile that reached his eyes. Proper planning prevents poor performance. Outside, the snow continued to fall, covering the bank's rejection letter in the recycling bin, while inside, a family bent their heads together over a notebook, planning their next impossible thing. Mitchell's Custom Woodcraft, Rebuilding Dreams. One piece at a time, read the crowdfunding page on Maya's laptop screen. Ann Chen had helped design it, incorporating photos of Tom's past work alongside the story of their unconventional family. But it was Jimmy's video that held everyone's attention now. My dad used to make beautiful things, Jimmy's voice narrated over footage of the restored workshop. Not just furniture, but dreams, like this dragon puzzle he started for me. The camera panned to the single finished piece. He had to stop when my mom died, to take care of me. But then Maya came, and she helped us remember something important. Sometimes the people who spend their whole lives helping others need a little help too. Tom shifted uncomfortably beside Maya on the couch. I still don't like asking for money. You're not asking, Maya reminded him. The community is offering. Look, the comments section was already filling up. Tom Mitchell built my daughter's crib 15 years ago. She's taking it to college next year for her own baby. Time to pay that craftsmanship forward. The desk he made for my home office got me through writing 3 novels. Happy to support his new chapter. Remember the toy chest he donated to the children's hospital? My son played with those toys during chemo. We're in. The donation ticker at the top of the page kept rising. $5,000, $7,000, $8,500. It's not just money, Jimmy said, pointing to another section of the page. Look at the volunteer list. Local businesses had started offering services, the hardware store pledging supplies at cost, the print shop offering free business cards, the coffee shop promising free delivery for long workshop days. Even Principal Davis had written, Mountain View High School is proud to offer our workshop space and tools for the next 6 months in recognition of Tom Mitchell's years of service to our students. And here's the best part. Maya clicked to a new tab showing a simple website. Mrs. Chen's nephew finished our business site. Look at the orders page. The commission requests were organized neatly. 5 custom bookcases for the school library, Mrs. Walker's dining set, Mr. Peter's hope, chest for his granddaughter, and a growing list of smaller projects. Each one represented not just income, but trust, faith in Tom's hands, remembering their craft. Tom cleared his throat. I don't know what to say. Say yes, came Mrs. Chen's voice from the doorway. She entered carrying her famous dumplings. Chairman Meow trailing hopefully behind her. Say yes to people loving you back, the bank said. Tom started. The bank, Mrs. Chen set down her dish with unusual firmness, does not know you like we do. They didn't see you stay late fixing the school's broken chairs. They didn't see you build a ramp for old Mr. Garcia's porch and refuse payment. They didn't see you open your home to a girl who needed family. She smiled at Maya. They don't know that the best investments aren't just about money. The crowdfunding ticker ticked past $10,000. Dad, Jimmy said quietly, remember what Mom used to say about your hands. Tom's fingers curled reflexively. That they were meant for making beautiful things. She was right. Maya opened another tab, showing the business calendar they'd created. Look at all these people waiting for you to make beautiful things for them, real things, not just dreams anymore. A new comment popped up on the crowdfunding page. 20 years ago, Tom Mitchell made my wife's rocking chair. She's gone now, but that chair still holds all our memories. Time to help him make new memories for other families. Tom stared at the screen for a long moment. Then slowly he reached for his phone. Everyone watched as he dialed a number. Mr. Rodriguez, about that lumber order we discussed. Yes, for the school bookcases. Can you deliver next week? He paused, looking at his family gathered around the laptop. No, not to the school workshop, to my shop, my family's shop. Jimmy threw his arms around Tom's waist while Maya felt tears. Spring to her eyes, Mrs. Chen quietly began serving dumplings, pretending not to wipe her own eyes. One more thing, Tom said into the phone. Remember that dragon puzzle design I showed you, the one for Jimmy? I'm thinking of adapting it, making it bigger. A whole set of nesting pieces for 3. Maya felt her heart swell. On the laptop screen, the crowdfunding ticker kept climbing. Each number representing someone who believed in second chances, in beautiful things, in family. The first snow of December swirled outside their window, and somewhere in the distance a church bell rang. Chairman Meow curled up in Maya's lap as she watched Tom begin sketching on a napkin, his hands remembering their purpose, creating something new from memory and love and possibility. For 3, he repeated softly, adding details to the dragon's scales. For family. The workshop renovation plans were spread across Tom's restored workbench, coffee rings staining the corners where countless hours of planning had turned into action. Maya traced the neat pencil lines with her finger, checking off completed items. New electrical, fresh insulation, reinforced walls, proper ventilation. But it was the handwritten notes in the margins that told the real story of transformation. Jimmy's homework corner. She read aloud, smiling at the carefully drawn desk space tucked into a sunny corner. My idea, Jimmy said proudly from his perch on a new stool. the first piece Tom had completed in his restored workshop. "Dad says I can do my homework here after school while he works. Maya too." Tom looked up from where he was installing the last of the custom tool racks, sawdust catching in his graying hair. "Speaking of homework, how's that math coming along?" "Done," Jimmy announced. "Maya helped me understand fractions using your measuring tools. Did you know that woodworking is basically just fancy math?" "Your mother used to say that," Tom said, softly, running his hand along the smooth wood of the rack. "She'd help me calculate angles, figure out proportions." He smiled at Maya. "She would have loved teaching you both." The workshop hummed with afternoon light and possibility. Every surface showed signs of their combined efforts. The walls Mr. Rodriguez had helped them insulate, the pegboard Mrs. Chen's nephew had mounted, the reclaimed wooden flooring donated by the hardware store. Even the ancient radio had been restored, currently playing quiet jazz from the local station. "Look what I found in the plans," Maya said, pulling out a folded paper tucked between pages. It was an old sketch of the workshop layout, dated from before Sarah's death. In one corner, Tom had drawn a small reading nook with the note, "Story corner for Jimmy and future siblings." Tom came to look over her shoulder, his hands leaving sawdust prints on his jeans. "I'd forgotten about that," he said quietly. "We always wanted more kids, but after Sarah..." He trailed off, then squeezed Maya's shoulder. "Sometimes life has its own blueprint." A knock at the workshop door interrupted the moment. Mr. Peters stood there, looking both nervous and excited. "Sorry to interrupt," he said, "but I wondered if... could I see how my granddaughter's hope chest is coming along?" Tom's face lit up. "Just started the dovetail joints this morning. Come see." He led Mr. Peters to his workbench where pieces of carefully selected cherry wood were taking shape. "Maya, hand me that measuring tape." Maya watched as Tom explained each step of the process, how he'd chosen wood with a grain pattern that would flow continuously around the chest, how the dovetail joints would hold for generations, how the lid would be carved with a pattern of roses like the ones in Mr. Peters' garden. "It's going to be perfect," Mr. Peters said, voice rough with emotion. "Just like the rocking chair you made for my Alice." "Speaking of chairs," Jimmy piped up, "show him the special drawer, Dad." Tom smiled, pressing a hidden catch on the side of the chest. A small compartment popped open. "For keeping treasures," he explained. "Every hope chest needs a secret space. For dreams." Maya added another checkmark to the renovation plans. "Custom storage solutions." But what she was really marking was the confidence in Tom's movements, the joy in his explanations, the way his hands moved over the wood like they were remembering an old dance. After Mr. Peters left, they worked together in comfortable quiet, Tom shaping wood, Jimmy sorting screws into labeled jars, his own organizational system that somehow made perfect sense, Maya updating their project timeline. The radio played softly, sawdust danced in sunbeams, and the workshop felt more like home with every passing hour. "Maya," Tom called from his workbench, "could you grab Sarah's old design notebook? I want to show you something about pattern adaptation." She found the notebook exactly where it belonged, in the drawer still labeled Dreams in Progress. As she handed it to Tom, she noticed he'd added something to the workshop plans, written in fresh pencil. "Family Corner, where old dreams meet new ones." "Dad," she said, trying out the word that still felt new and precious on her tongue. "Thank you for letting us be part of this, for letting us help." Tom looked around his transformed workshop, at the space they'd rebuilt together, at the projects taking shape under his remembered skills, at his expanding family that now included a teenage girl who'd helped him find his way back to himself. "Thank you," he said softly, "for helping me remember that some dreams just need a little sawdust to grow." The first official order form for Mitchell's custom woodcraft sat framed on the workshop wall, sunlight catching the fresh ink. "Commission, School Library Reading Nook, requested by Principal Davis." Below the specifications and drawings, Tom had added a note that wasn't strictly professional but felt necessary. First project of our new beginning. Maya adjusted the frame slightly, making sure it hung perfectly level. Unlike Sarah's purposefully crooked photo in the house, this needed to be precise. This was their future, taking shape in clean lines and careful measurements. "They're starting to arrive," Jimmy called from the workshop door. "Dad, Maya, come quick." The workshop's grand opening had been Maya's idea, supported enthusiastically by Mrs. Walker and the Tuesday Coffee Club. Every proper business needs a proper launch, they'd insisted. Now, watching people stream into their transformed space, Maya wondered if they'd underestimated the town's interest. Tom stood at his workbench, wearing a new shop apron Jimmy had gotten him, embroidered with Mitchell's custom woodcraft by Mrs. Chen's sewing circle. The reading nook he'd built for the school library was displayed in the center of the workshop, a masterpiece of form and function with built-in seats, hidden storage, and carved panels depicting scenes from classic children's books. "Tom Mitchell," Principal Davis said, running her hand along the smooth oak surface. "You've outdone yourself. The children are going to love this." "It's not just furniture," Tom replied, his voice soft but proud. "It's a space for dreams. Every book these kids read here could change their lives." He glanced at Maya. "Sometimes all you need is a safe place to land, and everything can change." The workshop filled steadily with townspeople, each bringing something to share: food, stories, more commission requests. Mr. Rodriguez led impromptu tours, pointing out the professional-grade equipment and safety features. Mrs. Walker had set up a photo display of Tom's past work, carefully preserved over the years. Even Chairman Meow had made an appearance, supervising from his new perch on the custom cat tower Tom had built as a practice piece, though everyone knew it was a labor of love. "Maya," Mrs. Chen called, waving her over to where a group had gathered around the hope chest Tom had completed for Mr. Peter's granddaughter. "Tell them about the hidden compartment design." Maya launched into the explanation, surprising herself with how naturally the technical terms came now. She'd absorbed so much in the past weeks, watching Tom work, helping with research, learning the language of craftsmanship. "The mechanism is inspired by traditional Japanese puzzle boxes," she explained, demonstrating the secret catch. "Each one is unique, so every piece tells its own story. Just like the stories these hands can tell," came a gravelly voice. Mr. Peters stood at her elbow, eyes moist as he examined the hope chest. "My Alice would have loved this. She always said Tom had magic in his hands." "Speaking of magic," Jimmy interrupted, practically bouncing with excitement. "Show them the dragon, Dad." Tom smiled, pulling a cloth off his latest project. The workshop fell silent as people gathered to see the nesting puzzle he'd created. 3 wooden dragons, each protecting its own treasure chest, designed to fit together into one magnificent piece. The largest dragon bore Sarah's signature roses in its carved scales. The medium one held books and tools in its treasure chest, and the smallest protected a miniature workshop. "One for each of us," Jimmy explained proudly. "Dad says families are like puzzle pieces. They don't have to match perfectly to fit together perfectly." Maya felt tears threatening as she traced the pattern of books in her dragon's treasure chest. Tom had remembered her telling him about all the libraries she'd hidden in during those first hard days. Each piece held personal touches. Jimmy's dragon had stars like the ones on his bedroom ceiling, and Tom's contained subtle nods to Sarah in its design. "Orders!" Mrs. Walker called from near the entrance. "I've got 5 commissions already waiting for consultation." 7 here, added Miss Peterson, waving her notebook. Tom looked momentarily overwhelmed by the response, but Maya saw the moment his confidence settled back in place. He picked up his grandfather's favorite pencil, restored to its proper place in his shop apron, and opened their new project ledger. "Mitchell's Custom Woodcraft," he said clearly, writing the date at the top of the page, "where dreams take shape." He looked up at his gathered community, at his children, at the workshop that had come back to life through love and determination. Let's begin. The afternoon sun slanted through the workshop windows, catching dust motes and possibilities in its golden light. Maya watched as Tom began taking down details for their next projects, his hands steady and sure, his voice confident. This was what coming home looked like, she realized. Not just to a place, but to yourself. "Maya," Jimmy called, "help me show Mrs. Walker how the dragon puzzle fits together." She moved to help, catching Tom's eye as she passed his workbench. He winked at her, a gesture so fatherly it made her heart squeeze. Above them, the first order form hung straight and true, marking the beginning of their next chapter. Not just a business reopening, but a family finding its way, one carefully crafted piece at a time. The adoption papers sat on Tom's workbench, the official letterhead stark against the wood's warm grain. "Petition for adoption," read the top line, and below it, in careful typescript, "In the matter of Maya Thompson Minor," the empty signature. Lines seemed to pulse with possibility. Maya stood in the workshop doorway, watching Tom run his fingers over the document the way he tested wood grain, searching for any hidden flaws, any reason to doubt. The morning light streamed through the windows they'd cleaned together, catching the dust motes that never quite settled in a working shop. "You don't have to decide right now," Tom said quietly, still looking at the papers. "Being family, it's not about documents. You'll always have a home here, Maya, whether we make it legal or not." "Dad," she said, the word falling naturally now after months of practice, "do you remember what you told me about woodworking? About how sometimes you have to commit to the cut?" He looked up, a smile tugging at his mouth. "Using my own lessons. Against me, learning from the best." Maya moved to stand beside him, touching the papers gently. "When you found me in that gym, you committed. You didn't know me, but you cut straight and true. Now," she gestured around the thriving workshop, "at the projects in various stages of completion, at the wall of family photos that now included her. Look what we built together." The workshop door creaked open, and Jimmy burst in, still in his pajamas despite the late morning hour. "Is it time? Did she sign yet? Can I officially tell people she's my sister?" "Jimmy," Tom started, but Maya interrupted. "Actually," she picked up the pen Mrs. Chen had given her specifically for this moment, a beautiful fountain pen that had belonged to her grandmother. "I was just about to, unless—" She looked at Tom, suddenly uncertain. "Unless you've changed your mind?" Tom's response was to pull both children into a fierce hug. When he finally stepped back, his eyes were bright. "Mind if I use my grandfather's pen? Seems fitting, since he taught me that family is something you build, piece by piece, with love and care and the right tools." Maya nodded, unable to speak past the lump in her throat. She watched as Tom took the old pen from its honored place on the tool wall, tested it on a scrap of paper, then signed his name with steady strokes. Then he held the pen out to her. Her hand trembled slightly as she took it. The metal was warm from Tom's grip, smooth with generations of use. Behind her, she could hear Jimmy practically vibrating with excitement, could smell the coffee Mrs. Chen had dropped off earlier, could feel the workshop's familiar embrace. "Wait," Jimmy said suddenly. "Maya, look up there." She followed his pointing. Finger to the high workshop window where a shaft of sunlight had broken through the morning clouds. It fell directly on Sarah's photo on the wall, the one they'd moved from the house to watch over the shop. In the photo, Sarah was laughing, her face turned toward the camera with such joy it almost hurt to look at. "Mom's smiling," Jimmy said softly. "She knows." Maya felt tears spill over as she signed her name beneath Tom's. The ink flowed smooth and black. Maya Mitchell. Her new name. Her true name. "One more thing," Tom said, his voice rough with emotion. He moved to his workbench and pulled out a small wooden box Maya hadn't seen before. The lid was carved with intertwining initials. MTJMMM. "Open it." Inside, nestled in velvet, lay 3 wooden puzzle pieces. miniature versions of their dragons, small enough to wear as pendants. Each was carved with incredible detail, fitted with a silver chain. "Dad made them last week," Jimmy explained, already pulling his on. He said every family needs something that shows how they fit together. "Even when we're apart," Tom added, helping Maya with her chain. "We're still connected, still family." The pendant settled against her heart, warm and right. Through the workshop windows, she could see Mrs. Chen approaching with what looked like a celebration cake, Mr. Rodriguez's truck pulling up with Jimmy's favorite ice cream, Principal Davis carrying a gift bag. The community that had helped rebuild Tom's dream was coming to celebrate their family becoming official. "Maya Mitchell," she whispered, testing the sound. She touched her dragon pendant, then looked at the adoption papers drying on the bench. "I guess we really did build something beautiful." "We're not done building," Tom said, pulling both his children close again. "Families are like custom furniture. They keep growing, changing, adapting, but the joints, if you make them with love," he squeezed them tight, "they last forever." Outside, the first spring flowers were pushing through the workshop garden. Jimmy had started. Sarah's roses blooming alongside Maya's carefully tended herbs, wild and cultivated, growing together, making something new and wonderful, just like family. The family portrait hung in the workshop entrance, impossible to miss. Tom in his craftsman's apron, Jimmy perched on his newly made stool, Maya leaning against the workbench that had started it all. But it was the fourth person in the photo that made everyone pause. Sarah's picture, held proudly between Tom and Maya, included in the moment just as she was included in everything they did. "Perfect spot," Mr. Rodriguez said, stepping back to admire his handiwork. He'd insisted on framing it himself, using wood from the first tree Tom had milled after reopening the shop. Every family business needs a founding photo. It had been 1 year since Maya had found Tom's journal. 1 year since a community had come together to help rebuild not just a workshop, but a family. Now, watching Jimmy demonstrate proper wood grain assessment to a group of wide-eyed school kids, part of their new weekend woodworking classes for children, Maya felt the weight of her dragon pendant against her heart and knew that some dreams really did take shape in wood and love and time. "Maya," Tom called from his workbench, "could you help me with this final measurement?" She moved to his side, already reaching for the tape measure. The piece they were working on was special. A cradle for Mr. Peter's first great-grandchild, incorporating elements from both the Hope chest and his wife's rocking chair. "A family legacy in wood, you know," Tom said quietly as they worked. "Your mom used to do this part, checking my measurements, making sure everything was perfectly aligned." He smiled at her. "She would have loved seeing you here, carrying on, her tradition of keeping me straight and true." Maya looked up at Sarah's smiling face in their family portrait. "Do you think she would have been okay with me calling you Dad?" "Oh, honey." Tom set down his pencil. "Sarah always said love multiplies, it doesn't divide. Having you here, watching you help rebuild our family's dream." He touched his own dragon pendant. "You didn't replace anyone. You added your own piece to our puzzle." "Dad! Maya!" Jimmy's excited voice carried across the workshop. "Look what Chairman Meow found in the old storage box." They turned to see Jimmy carefully extracting a dust-covered book from a box they'd missed in their initial cleanup. Maya recognized it immediately. Sarah's original design notebook, the one that had inspired her to start documenting their own new projects. "I remember this," Tom said softly, taking the notebook. "Sarah used to say every piece of furniture should tell a story." He opened it carefully, and a loose paper fluttered out, a sketch of a family tree, its branches designed to hold photos. On the margin, in Sarah's handwriting, "For when our family grows," Maya felt tears prick her eyes as Tom handed her the sketch. "She knew," she whispered. Somehow, she knew there would be more love to add. "Speaking of adding," Jimmy said practically, bouncing with excitement, "can we tell her about the expansion now?" Tom laughed. "Might as well. Maya, Principal Davis approved our proposal. Starting next month, we're officially adding a teaching workshop next door. Weekend classes for kids, evening sessions for adults, special programs for students who need a little extra support. He squeezed her shoulder. And you, if you want, will be our official junior instructor. Maya stared at him, then at the growing stack of student applications on his desk. Really? But I'm still learning myself. Best kind of teacher, Mr. Rodriguez called from where he was restocking their wood supply. Someone who remembers what it's like to be a beginner. Someone who knows that sometimes the most important thing isn't the technique, but having a safe place to try. Looking around their workshop, at the projects in progress, the legacy they were building, the family they had become, Maya understood what he meant. Every piece they created was more than wood and craft. It was proof that broken things could be mended, that lost dreams could be found, that families could be built from love and choice as surely as from blood. The afternoon sun slanted through the windows, catching the dust motes that danced around them like golden possibilities. Jimmy was already sketching ideas for the teaching space, his dragons watching over his work. Tom had returned to the cradle, his hands moving with the sure confidence of a craftsman who had found his way home. And Maya, standing in the heart of the workshop that had changed everything, touched her pendant and smiled at Sarah's picture in their family portrait. Some dreams, she had learned, were just waiting for the right hands to shape them.